Stop studying. You are wasting your time. If you open a textbook, highlight a few lines, reread them until the words look familiar, and call it a night, you are pouring water into a bucket that has no bottom. 90% of what you just learned will vanish before the next quiz, and the proof is already in your head. Try to recite right now the main points of the last chapter you read. Most people cannot. That is not a personal failure, it is a biological certainty. The brain is designed to discard information it is not forced to use, and every passive review session you run is interpreted by your synapses as harmless background noise. The result is the same leaky bucket, refilled nightly, always empty by morning. The first mistake is the most comforting one, highlighting and rereading. It feels safe, even pleasurable to watch neon stripes accumulate across the page. The eye glides, the hand moves, the hour passes, and the illusion of progress is complete. Yet meta-analyses from cognitive education journals show that repeated passive exposure produces retention rates between 5 and 15%. Recognition is not recall. Seeing the word photosynthesis in fluorescent yellow is not the same as being able to define the light-dependent reactions on a blank sheet of paper. The brain stores what it has to work for, not what it merely recognizes. The second mistake is the heroic all-nighter cramming. Information shoveled into working memory the night before an exam is treated like junk mail. The hippocampus tags it urgent temporary, keeps it for roughly the shelf life of a grocery list, and then erases it to free up limited space. 48 hours later, the details are gone and the student blames the test, the teacher, or a lack of coffee. Meanwhile, the classmates who distributed the same volume of material across 10 short sessions hold on to 80% of it for weeks because each retrieval told the brain, this might be needed again. The third mistake is passive learning in disguise, watching a lecture at double speed, nodding along to a well-drawn animation, or rereading perfect notes posted online. It is the intellectual equivalent of reading a manual on swimming while standing on the deck. You emerge informed, entertained, and completely unable to perform when the water hits your face. Unless you close the book and try to reproduce the argument, the concept, the formula, the chain of events, the knowledge never leaves the shallowest synaptic layer. Here's the pivot. Studying is not a time-spent contest, it is a retrieval contest. The metric that predicts exam performance is not how many hours you sat with the material, but how many times you successfully pulled it out of memory without cues. Neuroimaging studies show that each act of retrieval thickens the axonal pathways that hold the information, the same way repeated lifts thicken muscle fibers. Once you accept that retention beats exposure, every so-called shortcut, highlighting, cramming, passive review reveals itself as a costly detour. Enter the learning pyramid, a consolidation of more than 100 empirical comparisons of instructional methods. At the base sits reading with its 10% average retention. Lectures rise to 20. Demonstrations reach 30. Discussion pushes toward 50. Practice by doing vaults to 75. At the apex, teaching others delivers 90% retention. The numbers are averages, not magic spells, but the pattern is robust and cross-cultural. The more you actively manipulate information, the more you keep. The pyramid is not a suggestion, it is a report card on how human memory actually works. The practical translation of that report card is active recall. Instead of reviewing your notes, close them. Write or speak everything you remember. Then check for accuracy and fill the gaps. This single act triggers the testing affect, a phenomenon first documented in 1901 and replicated hundreds of times since. The very act of trying to remember changes the memory, making it more durable than another passive exposure ever could. One controlled trial found that students who spent 1 hour testing themselves outperformed peers who spent 3 hours rereading, achieving 50% higher scores 1 week later on completely new questions that required transfer of knowledge. A systematic way to apply active recall is the Feynman technique. Choose a concept, say natural selection. Write it on a blank page and explain it aloud as if lecturing a 12-year-old. Wherever your explanation falters, you have located a gap. Return to the source, simplify the language, and try again. When you can deliver the entire idea without jargon or hesitation, you have genuinely understood it, and the neural network that holds that understanding is now sturdy enough to survive the exam, the next course, even the job interview. Another vehicle for active recall is self-quizzing with flashcards or past papers. The key is to attempt the answer before any hint is available. Each successful retrieval strengthens the memory trace. Each failed retrieval points to a weak spot that needs reinforcement. Space those attempts and you weaponize the forgetting curve instead of surrendering to it. The first quiz should come within 24 hours of the initial exposure, the next 48 hours later, the third a week after that, the fourth 2 weeks later, the fifth a month. Each interval is longer because each successful retrieval makes the memory more stable, so it takes longer to decay. Software algorithms can schedule the reviews, but the principle is ancient. Memories that are periodically revived become permanent. Spaced repetition is the antidote to cramming because it respects the biochemical reality of long-term potentiation, the process by which synapses grow stronger. A neuron that fires once and is left alone will prune its connections to save metabolic resources. A neuron that is forced to fire again and again on expanding timelines is told, this pattern is part of the organism's survival toolkit. Keep it. The student who reviews for 5 minutes on day 1, 4 minutes on day 3, 3 minutes on day 7, and 2 minutes on day 14 spends a total of 14 minutes and retains the material for months. The crammer spends 6 hours the night before and loses 80% of the payload within days. The math is insultingly simple. Yet techniques alone do not survive busy schedules. Systems do. Translate the science into daily life with 3 habit hacks. First, the 2-minute rule. Reduce the friction to entry by promising to attempt only one flashcard or read only one paragraph. Momentum carries you forward once the engine starts. Second, habit stacking. Tether the new behavior to an existing routine. After you brush your teeth, answer 3 quiz questions. After you open your laptop, launch the spaced repetition deck before any social tab. Third, the Pomodoro Protocol, 25 minutes of laser-focused effort followed by a 5-minute break. 4 cycles create a 100-minute fortress of deep work that outperforms 3 distracted hours and prevents the burnout that derails consistency. Consistency is the hidden multiplier. Neuroscientists speak of overlearning, the phase past initial mastery where continued retrieval makes a skill automatic and resistant to stress. Overlearning is achieved only by daily bite-sized sessions, not by heroic sprints. The students who rise to the top are rarely the ones who post midnight library selfies. They are the ones who ran a quiet, repeatable system until the knowledge became unlosable. Small daily effort beats last-minute panic every single time. If this helped, hit like and subscribe so you never miss a game-changing tip. Good luck with your studies. Now go crush it. The second act of memory is consolidation, the slow, invisible transformation that turns a fragile, freshly encoded trace into a stable, long-term record. Overnight, during deep sleep, the hippocampus replays the day's activity at 20 times normal speed, shipping the most salient fragments to cortical storage. Skipping that sleep is the academic equivalent of deleting the save file of a video game you just spent 8 hours playing. Laboratory experiments are unambiguous. A full night's sleep after learning word pairs boosts recall by 20 to 40% compared to the same number of waking hours. Caffeine-fueled all-nighters trade tomorrow's alertness for today's illusion of productivity, and the interest rate on that loan is extortionate. Stress is the other silent eraser. Cortisol, released in high doses during anxiety spikes, binds to receptors in the hippocampus and disrupts long-term potentiation, the cellular basis of memory. Students who walk into an exam hall with heart rates above 100 beats per minute retrieve, on average, 1/4 less information than they demonstrated the night before in the dorm. The countermove is not wishful thinking, it is physiological control. 90 seconds of slow diaphragmatic breathing drop cortisol levels by up to 50%. A 2-minute pretest ritual, 4-second inhale, 6-second exhale, buys back measurable points on the final score. Top performers treat calmness as a skill to be trained, not a gift bestowed upon the lucky. Retrieval strength is only half the equation. Storage strength, the underlying stability of the memory, matters just as much. The two strengths are governed by different rules and can be dissociated. A memory can be retrievable today because of recent exposure, yet still fragile tomorrow. Conversely, a memory can feel forgotten, yet remain dormant and relearnable with frightening speed. Effective studying deliberately separates the two. First, build storage strength through spaced retrieval, then test retrieval strength under novel conditions. That is why mixed topic quizzes outperform blocked practice. They force the brain to locate the correct schema before retrieving the fact, duplicating the unpredictable demands of real-world application. The final layer is metamemory, your brain's awareness of its own memory. Most students are catastrophically poor at judging what they know. When allowed to glance at notes, they predict post-test scores 25% higher than they actually achieve. The cure is judgments of learning made under conditions that mimic the exam: closed book, varied question types, timed. A 2-minute self-test after every study block provides instant, objective feedback, calibrating confidence to reality. Overconfident learners trim wasted review time. Underconfident ones identify hidden weak spots. Either way, accuracy improves, and study hours are reallocated to where they yield the highest marginal gain. Put together, the protocol is simple but unforgiving. Encode actively, consolidate nightly, retrieve periodically, and monitor honestly. Do that for weeks, and the knowledge becomes bulletproof. Deviate and the bucket leaks. The choice is yours, because the brain, for all its complexity, obeys predictable rules. Learn the rules and you stop gambling with your grades.